In this video, I'm going to walk you through the exact process that we used to land our clients 63 media placements with backlinks from the likes of NBC Chicago, TimeOut, Boston, Hartford Courant, and many other authoritative media outlets, and how you can do the same for your own business. Step number one was brainstorm a newsworthy campaign idea for the client that is both newsworthy but also relevant to his website. So, our client operates in a very specific industry that caters to truckers, essentially. So, his target customers are truckers. But obviously, we couldn't do a campaign just about truckers and the trucking industry because no one would cover that. The media would not think a story about, truck drivers would be particularly newsworthy. So we really had to go a little bit broader than that and think about, what do truck drivers do, right? Like, what do? They drive cars, they're traveling, just thinking about their day-to-day lives as truck drivers. And then once we kind of identified some of those aspects of truck driver life, we took a step back and we thought, okay, so what can we do now that is both relevant to truck drivers, but also to the average driver themselves, right? We considered many different campaign angles, and we ultimately settled on identifying the best public bathrooms in America, right? Because these truck drivers are always on the road and they are always using public restrooms at rest stops all across the country. But you know what? So do the average drivers, right? Families, people who are on the road, who are traveling, they also use public restrooms. It's kind of a thing that you do, right? You can't just hold it in for like a 5-hour road trip. So that was the idea. So we then went into step number two, where we gather the data. This is the production phase of the campaign. So how we gather the data is by surveying roughly 3,000 truck drivers as well as drivers, so drivers, the general population, and ask them to rank the best public bathrooms in America. So we left it pretty open-ended, and we allowed people to select the cleanest, the nicest looking, the most inviting and well-kept restrooms in America. And we crunched the data. We took all that information and we compiled a ranking of the ultimate best public restrooms in America. And then we took that information and we created a beautiful linkable asset for the client's website that outlined all of the rankings in a easy to understand format. And then in the linkable asset, we outlined some of the key findings and also some of the trends and patterns that we saw in the data, just to provide more talking points and more interesting information to the readers of the campaign as well as to media outlets. And then after that, we created a press release where we essentially outlined the key findings in a very easy to understand way, but this time it was for journalists, right? So we ended up custom tailoring all of our press releases depending on the different individual states that we were targeting and the regional media outlets in those states. So if we were targeting, let's say, New York publications, then we tailored the press release to the findings of New York, right? We focused specifically on New York, and then we compared New York to the other states as well. So, but we primarily focused the data on that particular state because that allowed our press release to become even more relevant to the media in that state. And then after that, we had the press release, the linkable asset on the client site, and then we just identified relevant journalists that might be interested in featuring our story. So what we did was first outreach to all the local, regional specific media outlets. We hit up all the major ones across the country, again, with those tailored press releases for that specific state that we were targeting. And then after we completed that phase, we went national. We targeted national media outlets. So why did this campaign work so well? Number one, we think it worked really well because the campaign was very timely and relevant as well as practical. Summer is here, everyone's going to be on the road, everyone is traveling, and everyone needs to use the restroom, right? It's kind of a very practical story because now the journalists that are featuring this story are offering this practical value to their readers who might be traveling at some point soon. So the main takeaway here is, if you're going to do a digital PR campaign, make sure that the campaign is newsworthy. Think about it from the journalist perspective. Are the readers of that media outlet going to be interested in your story? Is there a practical angle attached to that story? Are you offering value to the readers of these media outlets? If your answer is yes to those questions, then chances are your campaign idea is going to perform really well. But if you're doing something that's very specific to your industry and reads more like an industry study, you're not going to get much coverage. I'll tell you that right now, because your story is just not going to appeal to the masses. It's going to appeal to a very small segment of the population. And that's why it's not going to land very much coverage. But make your story broad enough, make it interesting enough, and make it very relevant and practical for the time of year that you're going to outreach in. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. And if you do want some help with digital PR campaigns, who to reach out to, we are so busy right now, running a bunch of digital PR campaigns for different clients. And now's the time to invest in digital PR to build your brand and show Google that you are a source of trusted, authoritative, and original information, right? That originality, unique content, that is what Google and LLMs want nowadays. So position yourself for success, invest in digital PR, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.